Hello and welcome back to ThreeFlowing Podcast, the show where we aim to entertain, educate, and inspire. As always, I'm your co-host, Daniel.
Hi, and I'm Lane.
Hey there, I'm Ethan, also known as the Brazilian Guru.
Yeah, and today we're very happy to have on Cam, which is our guest today.
Hi there, Cam here. I'm happy to be here with you guys and get into whatever we're talking about.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Glad to have you.
Coming out here.
Well, let's jump right into it. So, Cam, I know you from college, and I've been friends with you pretty much ever since. But, like I said, you're much smarter guy than I am. But I'd like to know your background, and let's kind of jump into that. And it's just wherever you'd like to start.
Okay, so Cam, that's a name. I'm from Nigeria. I actually came to the States, I want to say 2020, if memory serves me right. I'm here pursuing college. That was my main reason. But I'm just seeing where life takes me, really. You know, I'm pretty adventurous, would like to take whatever opportunity I can and not let anything get past me. I am studying cybersecurity now, though, and I am pursuing my bachelor's degree. Pretty open guy, love conversations, love to get to the deeper things of things. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Very nice. Yeah. And if you don't mind me asking, what hobbies do you do if you get some free time,
My free time, I like to be home, sleeping.
Fair enough. That's always a good one.
Or watching anime. I do that a lot.
There you go.
Play Fortnite. I've been trying to get you to do that with me. But
he won't play anything with us. I tried to get him to play college football with me for a long time. He won't do anything. This
is a podcast about conversation, not attacking me. Let's move forward with this. But gaming, yes,
Pretty much. And just conversations.
Okay. Very good.
Sometimes I come over, we have like the strangest conversations. It's just pretty deep, stuff like that.
Now we're going to film it.
Okay, perfect.
For sure.
Exactly. It's like taking just whatever we would do just with a group of friends and just put it on camera for the whole world to see.
Just a backyard hangout. So
exactly. In the Oasis.
Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, I'll divvy it to you. See what you got for us.
The guru got
I was
for
going to
us.
say you can either do it deep or small. The conversations, depending on how you want to do it. But yeah, I think it's good that you want to have deep conversations. I value that as well because a lot of times you just get in the rush of life and you forget about what's really going on around you. And I think it's good to kind of lock in and figure out what's really going on with the people that you spend time with and just the things that you're doing, being aware of every movement you take and being intentional about it. It's important. So.
Yeah. I think sometimes most people are just really superficial, so surface level. There's not a lot of deeper connections within other people,
It's true.
Like we're here right now, we know each other, but outside of here and outside of the times we talk, we're more like, how deeply do I know you, I just feel like there's a lot beneath the surface that could be uncovered.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think technology, although we're using it right now, it's complicated things. I think this generation has become, socially anxious, I guess is the right word that comes to me right now. And there's like that kind of that fear,
Mm-hmm. Right. They say it's so hard for people like, our age or younger to pick up the phone and call somebody.
Yeah.
Because there's that anxiety there.
I think there's a lot of overthinking as well.
Definitely.
And online, there's this false standard we've all created now about how things should go. There's this fallacy about, hey, this is how things are supposed to be because it's just a representation online that a lot of people try to fixate on.
See, and most people too, when getting to know someone, it's about, spending time too with them. Because, you're not going to get to know someone if you're not really there with them and just getting to know them with basic conversations. Obviously you can have simplistic, questions is what's your favorite color? And then, that can obviously domino effect down into something way more, derived and deep. So, granted, it's all taken with a grain of salt.
It's almost like we live in a place now in a society where we value our follower counts and the quantity of friends we have over the quality and maybe the depth of those connections. And I think we need to, in an ideal sense, get back to getting to know people. People don't know their neighbors anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
We need to build those deep connections.
Yeah.
I guess it's just a lot of going out of your way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I think we're so comfortable being in our own spaces, doing the things that we're okay with doing. We forget there's more to life outside of that, and just trying to find the space, energy, and courage, most importantly, to go out and do those things.
And also, for me personally, this is just an opinion, but, phones and technology sometimes, while it can bring us close together, can also pushes farther away because you're so dependent that you lean on technology as a crutch.
Absolutely.
Instead of just getting out there, you can walk to the mailbox. I can say hello to my neighbor, but I ain't really, I can just go and say, hey, how are you? And then, okay, good, how are you doing? It's just a bland conversation. I'm not really aware in the present moment. I'm just reacting to something that's so easy to react to. Yeah. You got to be in there in the present moment and just be absolutely aware of the conversations or just different situations that are going on around you. So,
if I could just piggyback of what you said,
sure.
I guess there's a lot of intentionality that should be applied. Like we're talking,
Definitely.
Am I just talking to you to talk, or am I actually paying attention here? Like you said, just being intentional.
And intentions are everything in conversations. When you act with intention, you'll realize how powerfully you'll change your reality. Like within a day, try it. Speak to somebody with intention. Act. You'll see how they react to you after you've done that, and it'll be just completely different. I mean, I've done this countless times. I'll tell you that it works. So try it.
Yeah. When it comes to giving advice like that, I think a lot of people underestimate the effect of small changes.
Yeah, it is very small. Everything's just very tiny. Like I said, deep or small.
Exactly. Maybe deep and small.
Yeah, maybe both. I don't know. Deep and small. How about that? Yeah.
I try not to get too deep into it. I'm more of, I don't know, logical and analytical in I guess in a way that I just don't see the I like synchronicities or what people like you're very in depth and informational about it.
Yeah,
I'm just one of those that I'll chalk it up to a coincidence and move on. I don't ever really dive into why it is what it is. I just that's just me though.
Well, I don't dive into why. Like if a synchronicity happens to me, I don't necessarily dive into why it happens because that can make you insane.
But you've got a rule book basically or something. You've got such a
the rule book is
in-depth
based on natural law, which is mostly hidden from people, and unfortunately, I think institutions and everything have hidden it. It's a shame, but we won't get into that unless you want to.
So,
well, the reason why I brought it up, and I didn't mean to cut you, is you're a very deep thinker as well, and I guess we'll talk about synchronicity if you don't mind. So, what are your thoughts, just in general, about synchronicity? See, to me, they're just coincidences, but what do you take them as? What do you
define that as?
Yeah, I was going to say, what is a
synchronicity?
Well, okay, so I'm not as well informed on it to speak, but I know you do talk about it a lot, so I guess you should give the
definition. So the synchronicity, like I said, can be deep or small. So it can be like you're looking at the clock and you see 11:11 every day. Like for me, I see constant repeating numbers. I don't think about it; it just happens to me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Or like I'll think of something, and then right after somebody will say something is exactly what I thought. That's like a synchronicity.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll wake up with something. This is like even deeper, like with a thought that just comes from nowhere. I'll wake up immediately out of my bed and I think of something. My friend calls me and he's telling me the same thing.
Okay, so it's just like more like, what are we going with though? Is this an application to life with people? Where are we heading?
You mean the meaning behind it?
Yeah. I think that would make a difference in what I say about it or what I think about it.
I don't know if there is. I think the meaning is pretty much what you tie to it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any, which is your path. I mean, whatever you're trying to do in your life. I think some people say it's your higher self or, Holy Spirit, if you want to say it like that. It's leading you or trying to remind you that you're on the right path. Or, I don't have a certain meaning behind it because, like I said, if you have meaning behind it, then it becomes like, you write these stories and you kind of go crazy, which we've seen from certain people. But what do you think about it? I mean, what's your thoughts?
I think pretty strongly something. You're about to say something?
No.
I think I was just. Well, first, hold on. So I also want to say,
boy, he's off.
Do you have any experiences with synchronicities as well?
Yeah. So I want to say something now. I strongly believe in the phrase that everything happens for a reason. I don't think anything is coincidental.
I agree with that.
I think the smallest little things make the biggest difference.
Definitely.
I couldn't tell you the day I met Lane because I don't remember. But I want to say a certain interaction happened that caused us to talk.
Agree.
And now we're here.
Might I also point out, he can't remember how we met. I can't remember how we met. He can't remember how we met.
No.
I can't remember how we met. And I also can't remember why you and I met. So it must be a trademark about how meeting me is.
I think it's because
theme.
When you have so many experiences with somebody, you know, sometimes it kind of all runs together.
Yeah.
And I think it's not as important to know the how exactly.
Yeah.
But it's just important to know that why. Like, you know that you met this person for a reason. I also would agree with you that everything in our lives happens for a reason, and that it ultimately works out for, at least if we do things right, the betterment of ourselves and for the people around us.
Yeah.
So definitely, I think meeting you today happened for a reason. I think meeting Ethan and Lane in high school, you know, it all happened for a reason.
Yeah, for sure. But
So it doesn't matter about, you know, if you're remembering how you started, just as long as you know you started and
you're off and running going with that. I guess based off of friendships, the way I see you, I think of you as a good friend. Every now and then, I know I call you to check up on you, and you reach out to me and like, hey, buddy, we should hang out sometime. I know we make like a million plans and probably only meet up once out of those times, but yeah, it's just a thought behind it, you know. And I think of you as a good friend, and I think there's the value you place on your friendships is the value you choose to place on them, you know.
There you go.
It's one thing to say, hey, this is a really good friend of mine. Anyone can say that. But in-depthly, how do you really feel? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I know I value you, and I don't need to put that in paper, but I know it's there, you know? It's based off to me to put that definition there.
Well, I appreciate it, and the feeling is certainly reciprocated. You know, that's why I thought of you
It's certainly
today.
reciprocated, huh? Let me check my graphs here and my charts.
Thank you, Mr. Guru. But, you know, it's...
Way to break up a moment.
You know, I thought of you to come on and help us out. So, I mean, obviously there's a
I
reason
came down
for
the
that.
other day. We were doing a little walk. You mentioned the whole thing.
I know. I remember. So
It's pretty good.
ironically, I remember.
Yeah. For one of the only things you remember. I'm just kidding. But yeah,
Thanks.
it's funny. We end up making a lot of plans together, and usually they're for a reason. You know, like I remember during the creation of this podcast, you know, sometimes he'd call me up one morning and he'd say, you know, I've been craving Zestos, you know, some like a chili dog from Zestos, and I'm like, you know, dude, no way. Yesterday, my family, we had driven by Zestos, and I thought, you know, man, that'd be good. I haven't had Zestos in like 2 years.
Yeah,
So
I haven't
then-
had it in years either.
Yeah, so then we went there, and I think it's just little things like that, you know, call them synchronicities, call it coincidences, what you will. But I think if we just kind of take those moments and we just kind of let it unfold as it will,
Exactly.
we can learn something.
Oh,
That's
for
yeah,
sure,
important.
For sure. And if I could add, not everything has a deeper meaning to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Sometimes I
absolutely.
feel
Yeah.
like
Wait,
we
what are
look
you
for-
saying?
Exactly.
Sometimes I feel like we look for meaning behind things that are just surface level. You know what I mean? So I guess it would just be up to discernment. You know,
Of course.
at
Yes.
that point, you know
Yeah.
what you want to take out of something, and you know when it's really just an interaction. It's really just a thing happening. But yeah,
Absolutely, and there are people certainly that we've met recently that they see meaning in everything, and that's a dangerous thing too, because then you can start to go down all these rabbit
That's what I was
holes and
saying.
think,
Exactly.
you know.
exactly.
And I wonder, like, do you think synchronicities happen to people that are looking for it, or does it also happen to people that just they're not looking for it at all, or do you think you have to be open to that?
So actually, crazy enough, I was thinking about this the other day. I think things happen
Boom,
in life,
synchronicity.
right? But sometimes it takes a certain level of awareness to
There you
pick up
go.
on things. You know what I mean?
That's what it is.
Like opportunities are always facing people. It could be
Yep.
staring you in the face.
Yeah.
But are you aware enough and courageous enough to grab that and get it? You know what I mean? So I think it's always happening. You might not be looking for it. It might be staring you at the face. But when you see this, do you realize, hey, this is something I need to go grab right now. This is something for me. You know what I mean? So again, being able to see it is one thing, but being brave enough to actually go for it is another thing. So I think it happens for everyone and anyone. Yeah.
Sure. Or you could be like overly dismissive of something too. You know, like maybe this stuff is happening to me, but like I'm just ignoring it. So I think you're right. There is
Yeah.
that balance too.
And again, when things like that happen and you do miss it, that's why I say everything happens for a reason. I think when certain things come up as disappointments, there's the next best option. And I guess you couldn't see it right now. I mean, God has a higher plan, has a future that you don't know what's going to happen. You know, things in store. But in the moment you take it as disappointment, I think that's pretty human to do, you know. Things don't go the way we want. It's not always going to happen like that. But later on, we could be seeing things that are just way better than what we had initially planned.
Absolutely.
See,
We
I
don't
had-
see that fully. Sorry to cut you off.
And I talked about this with Ethan and Daniel, is that, you know, you have to have a goal, but no expectation to get in there. And I use the phrase because I had to learn it myself. I always was trying to control everything, you know, having everything wrapped around my finger because I wanted everything to go perfectly. I wanted to do my best at it. But just have that end goal and, you know, just you're a ship out on the ocean, and you're just kind of being tossed about the waves. You got the wind at your back, you get your sails up, the wind's at the back, and you're going to get there, but you can't really plot out your course on exactly how you're going to get there. You just got to let the wind push you. So having a goal but no expectation.
You have to be adaptable.
Yes, adaptability.
Or it's like if you're the coach on a football team, you may have a game plan, but when you go to that game, depending on what happens, you don't know how exactly you're going to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
But you go out there and you improvise. You just got to take it as it comes.
It's all strategy. That's what it is.
I'm hoping for the best.
That's right. Yeah. So with synchronicity, this is to all you. What do you think about deja vu? Is deja vu somewhat a synchronicity? To me, it's just a made-up term.
You think so?
Because I don't think deeply on that.
He's logical and analytical, obviously.
Whatever.
So
when you say deja vu, only one thing comes to my mind. You know that scene in The Matrix when it's first mentioned with a cat that walks twice? You ever seen The Matrix?
I've seen it. I think I've seen it once or twice, but I don't remember it. It was a long time ago.
For me, it's been really weird because I told my family this.
That's the one with John Wick, right?
The character.
John Wick.
I know.
You ever seen The Equalizer?
Yeah.
But very weirdly enough,
Sorry,
with deja
Keanu.
vu, when something happens, I kid you not, I'm not making this up. I know how the exact next 10 seconds is going to play out. And it happens so very rarely. So that's why it's always important to me. But the moment I get the sense that I've seen this before, I can recant and verbally say how the next couple seconds are going to go. And it plays out that way.
While I am, I guess, logical and analytical, whatever, I can agree with you because it does happen to me. But
Really?
I just try not to dive into it.
Yeah,
Because,
you don't need to.
so I guess, what is it then? What is it? Is there any explanation on what it is, why it does what it does?
Nostalgic. Again, scientifically, we are humans. We do have false memories at times. And we like to believe that we have experienced this before, but really haven't. You
So
know
it's
what I
a
mean?
false memory then.
It could be, but there's a possibility that it's not. And it, again, higher calling. Things are beyond. We only know so much, right?
Exactly.
We only know so much.
Yeah.
It's true.
I like to say it's like your mind is tapping into the quantum field, like you're able to like kind of like the mind of God is like projecting onto you and you're able to like have that future sense. If that makes sense. Is that too?
It's
Well, I think
That's broad.
I remember sometimes that Ethan the other day we were in the park
Yeah.
and we were walking and I said something and all of a sudden you just stopped in your tracks and you're like you almost had like a deja vu moment.
Yeah. He said something in a certain way and I felt like I had dreamed it before or felt like I had been there. So there's certainly situations like that. If I may add, I think with deja vu, in my life, there's certain situations where I was dreaming something from before, right? I had a vision of something. I would try to manifest something in my life. And then once it happens, you look back and you remember the time when you were sitting there just imagining. And so I think for me, and you can kind of draw out the events and how they occurred and how you manifested that particular thing or person or whatever it was in your life. But to me, that's kind of like deja vu, but it's a little bit different, It's more predictable, I guess, because it's more about what you're trying to manifest in your life. But does that make sense, guys?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So that happened to me like recently as well. I mean, it's always happening because all this stuff right now, I've been dreaming it, just like this suit. I thought about this suit a long time ago, having this get up, a long time ago. And now I have it,
So with
I
deja
had
vu,
the confidence to get it.
So with deja vu, and the only reason why I'll say this is that I kind of threw it off to something I read, which was that it is you in the present moment trying to relate a previous memory to what you're doing now. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Okay, it's something scientifical with your brain, whatever. And I push it aside. You say false memory. You say the beam of God or something. It's just bringing you down.
Well,
So-
I mean, we're all tapped into the infinite mind of the Creator in some way, shape, or form. I don't want to sound too Gnostic or too religious or
Quantum
whatever.
realm.
I don't have the answer. I don't
just-
know. I just chalked it up to that. But I like to have the other inputs.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think of it. We're like thoughts in the mind of God. Roaming around, roaming about, and just we happen to see certain things that God allows us to see sometimes, and maybe we don't know the full reason why, but it all works out in the end. So.
That's the thing with religion, like you don't always have the answers. That's why you pray to ask for guidance or help on things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I ask you, Cam, kind of pivoting a little bit, what is like your relationship with faith, and like, could you describe your faith journey a little bit?
I'm actually a Catholic, born
Okay.
Catholic. I've been a Catholic ever since. I'm not too deep into how things should go religiously, and I've never been one to impose my religion on other people or have other people impose their religion on me. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I feel like we all have our own faiths, and I think faith as a human is very important because we can only get so far individually. You know what I mean? Like when life knocks you down, then what? You can be the strongest person, the most mentally adept person, but at the end of the day, I think just having someone to pray to or go to when everything in life seems wrong is something that gets you pretty far as a human being. So,
See, but before this, you were waterboarding me, saying Catholics the only the right way, and you were just really adamant about.
I
I'm
never
just
said
joking.
that.
No,
I know.
no. But I agree with you. Faith is very important for.
Yeah.
So with, I guess, just out of curiosity, with the recent passing of the Pope, do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't actually. As I said, I don't think of myself as a bad Catholic. I just know that I believe in God and I'm in the Catholic Church, but I don't have any personal opinions on anything.
So you don't get caught up in all the doctrine
I don't
of
know
the church.
politics
okay.
as well. I don't do any of that. I have my own personal opinions and I keep it at that.
Yeah,
You
you're
know,
good.
I fully believe that everyone has free will, and I also believe that we should never try to impose ourselves on anyone. You know, everyone's allowed to do or say whatever they think, and it's
Right.
up to their own discretion if it's right or wrong. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Absolutely.
It's true. We all have free will. Even when it doesn't seem like it, we do. We have a
Oh yeah,
choice.
for sure. I feel that so deeply when you say that because I think especially with emotions, we can get so carried away at times.
Yeah.
Things like anger, most specifically. I feel like when life's going every way that it shouldn't, we start to look
Yeah.
for anything to blame
Exactly.
and not
Exactly.
realize that we have absolute control over that situation.
That's true.
It may not look like it, but at the end of the day, there's this popular saying, you can't control your actions, only your reactions, you know? And ultimately, how you react to a certain situation ultimately defines how that situation will go.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
I could have a flat tire right now. I could choose to be mad over that, but I can just think about how I'm going to fix this and move on with my day. It's an inconvenience, but it's not the end of the world. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I agree. It is about how you react to it. Everybody likes to blame somebody,
yeah.
and and I used to, have that somewhat immature mindset is what I'll call it. But there's an old Led Zeppelin song. It's called "Nobody's Fault But Mine." Well, it's nobody's fault but yours, really. So, just taking ownership and responsibility.
Yeah. And I think sometimes when these bad things happen too, that we also learn to blame, God or like whatever, deity that you believe in. A lot of people turn to blame those figures too when things go bad. But then when things go good, they don't really think about it. So,
Exactly.
I think
We're
it's
not
just
grateful for it.
exactly being grateful every day, and just understanding that like, yes, everything happens for a reason, but also like, the universe isn't out to get you either. We're living in this existence and we just have to make the most of it.
And back to synchronicity. When I went so by the way, we're just kind of doing this off the cuff. This wasn't really planned to have a guest, but this is just somewhat improvised. So anyway, earlier today I went to a meeting, and the meeting was about gratefulness.
Really?
So
It's good.
mind blown, huh?
Gratefulness.
But it's
I
poetic, I think, really.
I think at times gratitude is super important because we get so caught up in all the negatives happening in life.
Yep.
We forget the good things we have going for us.
Yep.
And not to downplay my own emotions, because at the end of the day, it still matters. But when you really think about it, the positions I'm in, someone out there is begging to trade lives with you
Yeah, exactly.
instantly. So your horrible day could be a good day for them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it just really puts things into perspective for you as a person. Gratitude goes a long way. It really does.
And it does.
Makes you appreciate life more.
Right. I think, we just have to have that gratitude, understanding that there are people out in the world and in horrible situations that, it's well said, our worst days are somebody's best days. And just I think one of the most important things you can have in life is perspective. It's hard to see everything. It's hard to see our situation with the bigger picture at times. But then if we can take a step back and just recognize that, it's a lot bigger than just the day-to-day things. It's a lot bigger than that. Then that changes everything.
I think so as well. I think this is something really important to say. My perception is not your perspective. If you can make sense out of that, how I'm going to see something is not how the other person's going to see something.
Mm-hmm.
You never will. Sometimes we're just never going to see eye to eye. We probably never will. Different backgrounds. We have our own upbringings. We know how we feel about things. I know how I feel about things. But at the end of the day, it's just knowing who you are, knowing what you're okay with, and I guess just being able to look inwards. I don't think a lot of people do a lot of self-reflection. I think that's something I've noticed a lot. You know, being able to hold yourself accountable and look at things from a different lens, you know?
If you change the inner world, the outer world will reflect that. Just remember that.
Big time. And something you mentioned earlier about manifesting, I think, I wouldn't phrase it that way, but it's still in the same line of explanations. But I said earlier, your thoughts really define how your outcomes go.
Oh, absolutely.
The smallest changes make the biggest of differences. I think sometimes, and I'm guilty of this as well, when I want results, I want them like right now. Like I have something in mind. Okay, I want to go to the gym. I want to look really good. I want this like next week. But it doesn't work that way. You got to go to the gym every single week, every single day. Follow a set schedule for however long.
Mm-hmm.
But showing up to the gym 3 times a week will always make a difference than going 2 times and thinking, yeah, this is it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's all about repetition, your subconscious
Consistency.
mind. Yeah.
So-
Consistency.
Staying on topic, but yet also kind of leaving it. What do you think about like conspiracies? And I know everybody's thinking like maybe like JFK or whatever, but maybe just conspiracies in general. Are you more of a skeptic? Are you more of maybe I'm looking at the idea saying that that's possible? I mean, what are your thoughts on conspiracies?
I will never deny the possibility of something because, again, anything is possible. However, I don't choose to dive deep into anything that is not personally affiliated with myself. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I can form an opinion. However, I choose not to for the avoidance of conflict.
You don't, purposely go in and dive into
No,
it.
I never will. No.
Do you think that these things that people talk about a lot, are they distractions from what's really important?
Give me an example.
Like, for example, JFK assassination, conspiracies, I don't know, fake moon landings or whatever people may come up with. Birds aren't real.
Remind me your question again.
Birds aren't real.
I guess the question is, are these things distractions from what's really important? Like, I know some people, they stake so much time and energy into searching for the truth, right?
Yeah.
But are they missing something by doing that?
No, I don't think so. I
Okay.
think there's significance in these things being spoken about. You know what I mean? If someone doesn't talk about it, who will? You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe
Like-
there's truth to it.
Exactly. You know what I mean? I think it's important that someone takes the time out of their day or whatever to be able to talk about these things. I really believe in, again, free will. You know what I mean? Like everyone should be able to have an opinion on something, to be able to talk about things. There's value and importance in things. So if I'm not talking about them, someone out there probably is. And I think that's important as well.
Should we do an example
Do you have one?
of a conspiracy?
I don't think birds are real. So
You don't think birds are
You don't
real?
think, is that serious? You don't think birds are
I'm
real?
kidding. Or some,
We could do a new one. And the only reason I bring this up is I actually just watched a video the other day, and I thought it was very interesting because I just thought it was interesting. So if you want, we can. I can just kind of tell the story real quick, and you
Yeah.
can just give me your...
Go for it.
go ahead.
Okay. So I had previously watched this video on, on World War II, and I love history. And it was about the Allies were pushing through into Germany, and they had crossed a river, and it's not the Rhine, but it was some river, and it's called Selnus Rathaus. Selnus Rathaus. And it was this town, and they had this big hospital there, sort of big building, and the Germans had used it for like a base camp or but the Germans had used it for what, maybe informational purposes, maybe generals were there, whatever. Anyway, so when the Allies had broken through and crossed the river and gotten to this town, the Selnus Rathaus, they had found that the bottom floors, the basement floors, of the 3 floors, were flooded. And everything else had just been kind of scrapped and left. And the commanders are wondering, that's very odd, why they go to all the trouble to flood the bottom basement floors. Obviously, they're trying to hide something. well, okay, that's interesting. If they're trying to hide something, we need to find out what it is because they're the enemy. We got to find the information, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they assemble a team of Navy divers, and these 3 divers go in to these basement level floors, and only one guy comes back up, and he's frantic and just completely psychologically lost it, saying that something's following me. I saw, almost like demonic entities. And now, that as if I were hearing this, I'd be like, okay, he's just gone AWOL. He got confused in the dark. He didn't know. He just got his psyche snapped, and he's just, Well, anyway, they then kind of play it off, and some other things happen, such as maybe just weird supernatural things. But anyway, they decide, well, we're gonna, instead of going out and finding out what it is, it's a waste of time. The higher ups decide we're gonna go out ahead and cement these bottom floors, which is already a weird thing to do. You cement 3 floors. So they cement these floors, and they turn it into, for years to come, they turn it into like a barracks for these, I don't know, I guess other, British to the American armies, whatever. And the rates of suicides, the rates of paranormal activities is so high in this building that it's crazy. And I'm now watching this, thinking to myself, okay, what happened really? And so then the video continues, and they said, well, the Nazis were, they try to use all these different types of things to try and get ahead. One of them was supernatural, and they're trying to have,
Absolutely. Yeah.
possess these dead bodies or experiment on the Jewish people, and they're using all this. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So anyway, where it comes down to is, there is, so the facts were, the place exists. It was used by the Nazis. The bottom floors were indeed flooded. Something did kill, something, the divers, the only one came up. And the higher ups, for some reason or another, did decide to cement the building. The building still exists today. You can see cement that it is, like one of the handrails that, on the stairwell goes down, is cemented. It just goes down in the cement. And there are, on stats, high amount of suicides and kind of supernatural things with these people, the soldiers in the barracks. Anyway, regarding, I know I get into it, but my thing is this true? Why did it happen? Like, is it, what is it? Is it just people? A lot of people are crazy and have psychic breaks in this building.
You guys want to go first?
Well, I think it's definitely true and accepted that the Nazis used supernatural power to try to achieve their means. I think that's pretty well known at this point. I don't think anybody disagrees with that, unless you're just an atheistic person that have no spiritual sense. But there's certainly a lot of negative influences in this world that you have to be aware of. And being aware of stories such as this can help you to understand just people and places, and being aware of where you're at, who you're with, and how you should basically act in those situations. I think being aware, if you start feeling certain emotions that you don't normally feel, and you're in a specific place, and it happens every single time you're in that place, or you're with somebody that you've just met and you just don't feel something right about them, then there probably isn't something right about them. That's probably your intuition, your higher self, or God telling you, you need to be careful. So,
well, and I know that long rambling, whatever. My thing is it just an urban legend, or
could be? I'd have to
does
do
it
more
have
digging,
some truth to it?
Well, I'd love to know, are there any kind of chemical compounds? I'd love to test some levels to see if there's any other explanation too that could be causing people to either commit suicide or be deranged or something like that, because that could have a lot of different causes that are more nuanced than just supernatural. But I will say that it is possible something like that's happening. We know that there are likely spiritual presences within different worlds. And I used to be very skeptical of a lot of these things, and I still am to a degree, but I did have like one experience that kind of
Really?
was interesting. Yeah.
You want to share that? Have you told me before?
I don't know. Maybe
Okay.
I did, but this happened back in 2021, and my family, we were on this road trip across New England. So we drove all the way up to Maine and some coastal towns. But then after that, we were kind of on our way home, and we decided to go through New Hampshire, like the White Mountains of New Hampshire. And we ended up stopping at this kind of like an old inn. I think it was founded in the 1800s. Very old, historic place, very pretty. We got there, it's probably about 10 o'clock at night. And then we checked in, and the innkeeper, basically, she was about to leave, so she gave us the keys and said, when you're done unpacking, just lock up. So we did that. We locked the doors, and then we decided to go get ice from the ice machine, which was in the basement of this place. So we walked down the stairs, and when you're walking down the stairs, you can hear like the creak of the stairs. And like it's very obvious when someone's walking down the stairs, you'd hear like the creak, 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 creak. So we get down there. It's a very, kind of low lit basement. And there's, like I think a number of different rooms. They have a restaurant down there. Of course, nobody was there. Nobody was up at the hotel at all. So we get the ice, and then all of a sudden we start to hear the same footsteps of somebody coming down the stairs. Just like what we had heard when we walked down the stairs like 2 seconds before, or a couple minutes before. And it kept getting louder and louder, and it was clear that someone was coming down the stairs. So we looked over because we're wondering, okay, who's up this late? We're thinking they're probably coming down to get ice. And we looked over, and we never saw anything. And we didn't hear anybody go up either. So my dad heard this. I heard this. So that way I know I wasn't just being delusional myself. This was like a group hallucination, which I doubt it. But I've always wondered what that was. I didn't see anything, but I wondered what I heard. And it made me wonder, I guess to look deeper into these things. They're sometimes more nuanced than they may seem, but yeah,
that's really interesting.
Rambling.
Thanks for sharing that.
I'm a skeptic myself, so I understand I couldn't tell you what it is.
I don't know.
What would you take about it?
Your whole thing. I think there's too many inexplicable stories or scenarios that it would make you somewhat complacent to not be able to deny the possibility of those things. You know what I mean? Like religiously, supernaturally, there are just some things you just can't put explanations to. Like they just happen, and there's so many stories or scenarios. And again, you would just be kind of complacent to want to say, oh, that's not possible. It could never have happened. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, personally, it is possible something like that could have gone down that, 3 guys go down, only one comes up. It's kind of weird. You know what I mean? So it is possible. But again, I don't know. I guess we'll never have all the answers. You know what I mean? There's just so many questions that can't be answered yet.
Right. And, as a skeptic, it's one of those things where it is easy to be complacent. But for me, as a skeptic, it's also interesting to me to somewhat enlighten that idea that it's possible that it could happen. And that's with everything like urban legends to ghosts and whatnot.
Really, with anything.
Do you think it was a ghost?
I don't know. I can't say that for sure. I'm not at that place.
Well, I know who you can call.
Really? Yeah, I'd love to look into that. I actually would love to, if we get the chance to, we can go up there ourselves one day, check it out.
Yeah, I'd love that.
It's a very cool, special place. And, there's other things like that too. But I just think, I'm not in a place where I can say for sure anything, because I don't know what it is more than anyone else can tell. I know it was something, but, who really knows? I guess the whole thing has taught me to be, have an open mind to different explanations and theories, even if I don't know what it is. It could be with anything, just to be open-minded. It's okay to be skeptical. We should be skeptical. We should question everything in a sense, but to also not be closed-minded too, because there's a lot that we don't know.
Definitely.
In fact, I think the more that you know in life, the more you realize you don't know, and there's more, room to grow.
Yeah. There's a thing my mom always said, no man is an island. You can't know it all. You should be able to be willing to learn, and accept failure. And I just mean this like in general with life. I think a lot of people are so scared to fail that holds them back.
Absolutely.
But the thing is, failure is you learn. And I think as people, we should be as open to that as possible.
And don't always trust authority. I wanted to say that. just real quick. Don't trust authority just because they're authority. Always question, always try to figure I'm not saying always dive deep into these conspiracies and waste your time or whatever.
Never trust authority?
Did I say that?
Don't always. I believe.
Don't always trust authority. Never trust authority because they're authority is what I'm saying.
That's right. So he's saying never trust the police ever.
Trust them. No, I'm saying never trust authority because they're authority. Do you understand? That means don't trust authority just because they claim to be the authority and they claim to be in charge. Like as people say, I know it's cookie cutter says, but do your own research, right? Experiment on yourself. See what works for you.
Trust but verify.
Yeah, trust but verify. There you go. So don't just take something for granted and just because then that'll lead you down a bad path and you might mess something up in your life. So that's something, if we discuss things on this podcast, try it out for yourself. Try out every morning, thanking God for your day and being grateful and see how that changes your life. It
And
will.
not giving the police officer your license or anything. Yeah, never trust. No, do that.
He understands you really well.
Yeah, it's like taking it very literally, the advice.
Please don't take that literally. Don't ever do it. Please obey.
Just, follow the law and
The disclaimer, follow the law. Everybody.
Disclaimer. We didn't tell you to do that.
you'll be fine. Okay, thank you.
Follow the law, you'll be fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well, do we have anything else to talk about, or
I don't know, how long have we been going for?
I'm sure we've been.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
I think that's good. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, Cam, if you have anything, a burning desire, anything that's on your heart you want to talk about real quick before we close her down?
Nothing much. No, I think this has potential. This is going somewhere, and I think a lot of the times,
Thank you.
what people say is, people like to create thoughts. It's what we do. It's natural. We think, we have aspirations, but I think what takes you a step closer to actually achieving those things is that first step, and this is that first step. You guys weren't scared enough to not keep this as a thought and make it actionable. So I say consistency is key.
Definitely.
And keep at it. People will come. You will make an impact. Just believe in yourselves. You know what I mean?
So first
Appreciate
impression is everything. We made sure to do it right the first time.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Of course.
And
Totally.
Cam, I would like to thank you so much, for joining us. We really appreciate you being here, sharing your thoughts, and I know I certainly would love to have you back for sure.
I'm 10 minutes away, man. Give me a call. I'll make
Love
that
it.
drive.
I got absolutely,
Yeah, thank you, Cam.
All right. Thank you, guys.
absolutely. I'd like to, before we close it up, I'd like to shout out, thank you to the nice lady who's done the technical work,
Producery. Yeah.
producery, Miss Barbara. So yeah, thank you again.
Thank you so
But
much.
to all listening and watching, thank you for listening and watching. We hope we've somehow enlightened your day.
Tune in next week.
Tune in next week. Have a good one, y'all. God bless.
Ciao.